Hey guys, Justin here. While I'm away from iRacing for the next week or so, I thought I'd do a little bit different type of a video with what I had. So basically at the beginning of the year, I only had 13 subscribers when I started making iRacing videos, and along the way I think I picked up a couple patterns that the algorithm likes, along with figuring out what numbers really mean what. I don't think that this is exactly how the algorithm works. I don't claim to be an expert or anything, but I thought this would be entertaining at the very least for someone to kind of compare notes if you're a YouTuber and maybe help you out too, pick up a couple things. Alright, so getting started here, what are the metrics that matter on YouTube? And really it's no secret. The three metrics that are most important are displayed front and center for every video. And of course the first one is the click-through rate. And the click-through rate really almost entirely depends on the title and the thumbnail, because a disingenuous title and thumbnail can get someone to click on anything, and you kind of see that with bad videos, real clickbaity as we like to call them, and we'll get to that later. But next, the average view duration. So the average view duration I found is really what tells the quality of a video, how engaging it is to the viewer. And with longer videos, of course the average viewer duration gets higher, but along with that, there's also the average percentage viewed. And I found that this number means more for videos that are shorter than 5 minutes or so. Sometimes I have shorter videos on the channel that don't get as much view time, but because a higher percentage is viewed, it kind of counterbalances that, and I think that the algorithm looks at both and weights them depending on how long the video is. So with those three metrics in mind, we can ask ourselves, well, how does YouTube recommend videos then? So I propose that YouTube basically recommends videos in spheres, or I guess circles in the way that I do it on the slide here. So level 1, you're going to be at the very center of the circle, the smallest center. And this is your core viewer base. So the core viewer base is pretty much people who have recently watched your videos, but this does not mean that they are subscribers. Basically, I think that their subscriber status doesn't even matter. I think that if you have watched a video on somebody's channel recently, I don't know exactly how recent, but if you've watched a video on the channel recently, then you become their core viewer, and their content that they put out gets put to you first pretty much. So what I can tell about recommendations is that 80% of my viewers come from YouTube recommendations, and only 5% of my views come directly from the subscriber feed, and then searching and other stuff makes up the other 15% or so. Also, all these numbers are estimates. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about exact numbers for pretty much anything besides money, so I'm going to be doing estimates and kind of the shapes of graphs as opposed to exact numbers just to kind of circumvent that. But anyways, on this level 1, you're going to be stuck inside of your level 1 unless a video gets 10% click-through rate for about 24 hours. And I think that's about, it could be more, it could be less, but I think the sweet spot is about 10% click-through rate for the first day that it's out. I think it'll push through level 1. And then as the other caveat is that the average viewing duration or the percentage also has to be pretty on par with the rest of your videos. If it gets a lot of clicks but there's no retention through the first 30 seconds or so, then that might start hurting the video. But as long as it's within the ballpark, then the click-through rate is really all that matters. Okay. And so then now we get to level 2. Level 2 is going to be that second circle, not quite the biggest circle yet, but if your video succeeds in level 1, it'll push into level 2. And so basically this is a new, broader group of people. So this is either people that have recently watched videos with similar search terms, or like, let's say that I do an ARCA video and somebody else made an ARCA video too. So it might, if you break into level 2, you might get recommended people that both have iRacing ARCA in the title or in the description as well. I believe that matters. And then also people who have watched a video of yours but not particularly recently. So let's say that you haven't watched a video of someone's in a month or two, but they have a video that broke through level 1 pretty well, then I think that they'll start pushing it to those people who haven't watched one of your videos in a while, but then they can more likely want to watch a video that performs well with their core group. And then also people who have watched a channel that has a lot of crossover viewers. So in the iRacing space, you'll see a lot of both the Gavins and Nebon, all of them kind of get recommended and almost into one big viewer base. And that's what happens when they break out of the level 1. I think that they kind of share the viewers for level 2 in a bit broader terms. And then once you get into level 2, I noticed that you can be here between 1 day and 1 week if you're anywhere about 7%, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, but 7% is kind of what I see as the equilibrium as it'll progress in the level. If it's higher than 7% going through level 2, then it's more likely to break through to level 3. But if it drops below, much farther below level 7%, then that might be when it starts fizzling out in terms of impressions. And then again, you want to maintain at least average viewer retention. You don't want viewer retention to really fall off after the level 1, or else might hamper it a little bit. But again, I really think click-through rate is a lot stronger than the average viewed. And then finally, we get to level 3 and beyond. And so level 3 and beyond, I believe, is when you push through level 2, then you'll get a huge burst of impressions. And I think that comes from people who are watching videos in a similar category, but not necessarily interacting with videos that are in a very, like a niche category like yours. So for instance, when a video of mine does well, it gets recommended to a lot of Jimmy Broadbent viewers, because Jimmy Broadbent does sim racing content, but oval sim racing and kind of IRL plus road sim racing, rally, all that content, there's some crossover, but once you get to that level 3, that's when YouTube starts pushing it to a crowd that's not tied into your niche per se. So level 1 and 2 are pretty much for your niche, and then level 3 is when you start breaking out of the niche. And so as long as you can keep your click-through rate about 5%, again, estimate, or higher, then you'll keep bursting through levels. So level 3 could be sim racing viewers for me, for example. Then the next level could just be anyone who's interested in a car. And then the next level could just be anybody who's a gamer. And it just gets broader and broader and broader. And as long as you maintain your click-through rate through all those levels, you keep progressing and you keep getting impressions. But the moment that your click-through rate falls below about that 5%, 4%, something like that, then the well is shut off. It doesn't go any farther out, basically. And from then on, after YouTube has given the video to everybody who falls under the levels prior, then basically the only people that YouTube will give that video from now on is going to be people who move into the spheres that you already occupy. So there'll be some people in the future who will say, oh, I want to get into iRacing. And so at that point, maybe they start watching more iRacing videos. And then at that point, maybe they'd be getting recommended this video, even though it's not progressing through the levels anymore. But so what, we got all these numbers, we got all these ideas, we got all these theories, but what do we do with this? So I have a couple examples here. The first example is going to be my video, F1 fan tries NASCAR for the first time. And this is what I believe to be a video that didn't appeal to my core viewer base, but had the potential to appeal to a broader viewer base. But the reason I say potential is because you can see here with this arrow that it did not pass the first level, because my core viewer base, they liked it enough, but it didn't perform well enough with my core viewer base for YouTube to recognize it as something that could progress farther than the first level. So even though in theory it could have been a video that could be widely viewed and enjoyed by a lot of people in theory, I believe because it wasn't tailored enough to my core viewer base, it didn't even have the chance from the beginning. And then another example here is, here's an example of my most recent guide video. This is for C-Fixed. And it performs really well with my core viewer base because a lot of my viewers know my channel to be the channel for ARCA and C-Fixed guides, so a lot of them expect this video. And because of that, my core viewer base, it performs disproportionately well than to people who just aren't really interested. Like a casual sim racing fan doesn't care how the C-Fixed Auto Club qual and race guide works. So basically, it progressed to level 2, as you can see from this arrow. We gave it the green arrow because it progressed. You see it kind of go parabolic or exponential or whatever the math term you want there. And then after that, it kind of hit that wall where it flattens out and it kind of fails the level 2. So those are two examples of breaking through a level, but then also an example of, or two examples of not making it to a level. And then, well, what does the opposite look like? Here's one of my more recent videos that had appeal for both my core viewer base because it talked about a mechanic for oval racing, because it had more wider appeal because I kind of made a good thumbnail. It was a very interesting topic, more than a guide per se. So because of that, it actually broke through multiple levels and is still attempting to break through more. So you see here that it started out kind of okay. It never really tapered off, but it took a while because, as you can see here, the click-through rate never got extremely high. I can't show exact numbers, I'm sorry, but you see I have the death zone there. Basically, if my click-through rate goes below that death zone, it's kind of over in my opinion. But you see it kind of slowly is working its way up and kind of averaging out. And as long as it's keeping out of that death zone, it could have slowly progress. And then finally, in the last couple days, it reached a point where YouTube finally recognized it as something that could have more mass appeal, and I'm suddenly getting a spike in impressions again in this video. So it happened slower because the click-through rate wasn't very good at the beginning, but because it maintained, it has a chance. Alright, so we reached the end of part 1. 100 likes and I will instantly release the part 2 video. It's actually already done. It goes over why do I clickbait videos, what clickbait actually works, and does the content of the video even matter? Well, go ahead and click the like button if you want to find out all those things. And anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.